Meanwhile, some prominent international groups involved in anti-corruption efforts globally have written to President Muhammadu Buhari on what they consider the unfortunate treatment of Ibrahim Magu. Now, the letter was signed by Lucas Manes of Common, now Nicholas Hilliard of Corner House, Simon Taylor of Global Witness, all European organizations, and Olanrewaju Suraju of the HIDA in Nigeria. Now, the anti-corruption groups expressed concerns that the unceremonious exit of the former Economic and Financial Crimes Commission acting chairman Ibrahim Magu may erode the recent gains in the fight against corruption. Now, the group said Magu's determination to fight corruption is evidenced by the recovery of stolen funds and properties, plus his high moral ground earned at the cost of diligence and hard work. And still on corruption, a new report has identified Nigeria as one of the major countries whose citizens use Dubai, the economic capital of the United Arab Emirates, to launder proceeds of corruption and other illicit financial activities. Now, Carnegie Endowment for International Peace sponsored the report titled Dubai's Role in Facilitating Corruption and Global Illicit Financial Flows. Now, the report states that while the vast majority of financial businesses and real estate transactions in Dubai are not associated with illegal activities, well, part of what underpins its prosperity is a steady stream of illicit proceeds from corruption and crime. Now, it adds that the foremost obstacle to the reduction of Dubai's problematic role is its economic dependency on illicit financial flows. Well, for analysis, let's turn to Awal Musa Rafsanjani, the Executive Director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center in Abuja, and he's also the head of Transparency International in Nigeria. Now, you're very, very welcome.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about these letters coming from these institutions saying that, well, the federal government perhaps should play down on the situation which concerning Ibrahim Magu. Now, taking a look at this, now, should an anti-corruption chief like Magu be given some form of immunity?
Well, if we are to fight corruption in Nigeria, and if we are serious and we are committed to fighting corruption, I don't think anybody should be spared. The very reason why even the EFCC itself has been going after those people that have been established to be corrupt, confiscating their assets and dealing with them, I think it is because we don't want anybody to go unpunished. So I think what government has done now, even though they should have done this in much earlier and not even in this dramatic way, therefore setting up a committee to investigate allegation of this kind of nature, I think it is important even for the integrity of the person in question, because if these allegations are going on without them being investigated to verify the true identity of this allegation, then we may be missing very fundamental issue in the fight against corruption. So I subscribe to the fact that there should be investigation of any other public person who is involved, or who allegedly been involved in, corruption, because that is the only way to restore confidence that this fight against corruption is not a joke. Therefore, what we are calling for thorough investigation on this issue, and we are also calling for free and fair trial so that it will not be a state-managed trial. But I don't think it is right for anybody to say that this allegation should not be investigated or should not be proved, because if you do that, it means that you have truth about the fight against corruption.
Well, free and fair and fair and fair trial. But then, what do you think is necessary? Why do you think we've had this drama concerning the investigation of Magu?
Well, simply because there's appear to be mistrust in Nigeria. Many Nigerians, they don't believe in public officials. And again, many Nigerians believe that the fight against corruption still has a lot of deficit. Because, for example, we have been telling government, don't appoint people with corruption cases. EFCC investigated some people. They found them guilty in their investigation, and the president decided to give them ministerial appointment and even other appointments. That is not good development for the fight against corruption. Secondly, there are some corruption cases that the government simply ignore or did not bother to look at it. And that becomes very selective and disturbing. And now, again, there are a lot of things happening even within the EFCC that we have been telling the president, look, make sure that you have a legal framework that will, clearly define how assets are going to be managed. You cannot recover asset, you cannot keep this asset, you cannot utilize the asset, all of it for just one person or one agency. There should be division of labor. Police is recovering asset, ICPC
some form of accountability also.
Yeah, there's no, so custom is recovering, and quite a number of agencies, no synergy, no coordination, no cooperation, because everyone wants to show that he or she is doing this recovery. In the process, you are not able to be accountable in the process. No single data where you can go and find the jewelries, the gold, the plots, the estate, the houses, the cars that have been confiscated by the different agencies in Nigeria. You cannot be, recovering, looted money and asset, and then another set of looters will be looting, and then you think you are doing, fight against corruption. So the solution first is to ensure that you strengthen the institutions by making them to be accountable and responsible. Secondly, is to have a legal framework that will ensure that there's a clear division of labor. We have a poker bill in the National Assembly, and the government has not made effort to pass this bill, which will have enabled us to establish Assets Recovery Management Agency that would oversee this, recovered asset. But you cannot recover asset and then keep it to yourself, even utilize it like the way most of the agencies are doing. This is the root cause of this. And then on top of it, even the EFCC, there's no board. There's no board that is regulating or managing, and ensuring accountability on what it does. So therefore, there's a possibility that somebody may make a mistake. And again, you have kept somebody as acting for 4 years. So these are all the tendency and anything that will have been possible for somebody to make mistakes. Because you are not checkmating anything.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about the impact. Well, what kind of impact do we expect from such an investigation of, somebody who's actually been at the forefront of an anti-corruption campaign?
Well, I think there are a lot of Nigerians, and a lot of agencies also fighting corruption. ICPC is doing that. EFCC is doing that. Of course, in terms of recovery of illicit financial flow, and even this asset that we're talking about, EFCC appeared to be a major, institution of government that is doing that. But of course, don't forget, ICPC is also doing that, Custom is doing that, Police is doing that, and even Drug Enforcement Agency, they are doing that. So we need to have coordination. We need to have synergy to ensure that this gain that we have is not, wasted, and it doesn't send a wrong signal to the international community. I will tell you, both as person, individually and organizationally, we have been canvassing at international level. I was in the France, Parliament to advocate for the return of African assets, including Nigeria. I was in the State Department severally in Washington, D.C., discussing and ensuring, putting pressure on them to return our asset. We were all over. In the UK, we are also there. All this, we are doing that because we want our country to regain back this asset that have been stolen by weak and unpatriotic public official of Nigeria.
Well, pardon the interruption, but let's quickly bring in the president's message to Africans right now, and he's calling for a renewed commitment in the fight against anti-corruption. But then I think the question we should ask, looking at issues, across Africa, is there even a commitment by Africans to fight corruption within Africa?
Well, the truth of the matter is that there appears to be lack of even understanding on what this, fighting corruption is by many of the African countries. And in Nigeria, it's a typical example. Nigeria is a typical example of that. Nigeria, they think that corruption is just about giving money and collecting money. No. Political corruption is there. Abuse of public office is corruption. Rigging and manipulating election is corruption, and refusing to comply with court order is corruption. Refusing to allow, civil space, the media, the civil society to investigate and expose corruption by emasculating them is also corruption. Refusing to comply with laws like freedom of information, public procurement law is all tantamount to corruption. So the government appears to have a narrow understanding on what corruption is. And that is why at the level of Transparency International CISLAC, we have been advising government to make sure that all these issues are addressed for you to say that you are fighting corruption.
Well, I must say thank you so much, Awa Rafsanjani, Head Transparency International Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Are you watching Newsnight Nigeria?